I think I can start now. Hope everyone is hearing me okay. If you can just show me a thumb up. Good. Um, well, okay. Thanks for joining us in this webinar. This is a part of series of webinars that we do at Discerna. And I think I'm going to start off now. So today we're going to talk about the next step in decarbonization for businesses, something that many businesses face these days. You know, you've probably done some lighting upgrades already. You've added some insulation to the building. You've probably ticked off some easy wins in the business, in the operational side of the business. But now what? What's the next steps and how you can keep this progress going on towards net zero and when the obvious solutions have been done. So today I'm gonna start with some context about the climate emergency and where SMEs stand on net zero. We're going to review some of those low hanging fruits, and then we're going to go basically we're going to focus on what comes next, how to measure effectively, what technological solutions are out there, and more crucially, how we can bring the people along on the journey. And also we're going to touch on emissions reductions from other value change, some indirect emission reductions, and then before getting to conclusions. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Mo. I'm a senior sustainability engineer at Discerna. With a few years of experience in low carbon economy, low carbon transitions, building services, and energy efficiency and building decarbonization. At Discerna, we provide a variety of services, mainly includes utility scale applications, which basically is about deploying renewable energy and grid infrastructure. We have a section for field trials and smart home technology testing. I work in the group of energy efficiency in industrial and built environment, which is focused on energy and decarbonization support for businesses, along with developing some our tools such as the Bringabout, which is our carbon accounting tool, and behavioral change toolkit. And also we have the life cycle assessment team who's supporting sustainable manufacturing with LCA and its relevant standards and certificates such as environmental product declarations and CBAM certificates. So let's start with some context. Climate change is already here, as we all know. 2024 was the hottest year ever recorded on Earth, the first calendar year to basically exceed a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold. The story goes back to around 10 years ago when a bunch of world leaders came together and sat in Paris and said, okay, we've made lots of mess, how we can clean that mess. And then they set a target not to go above 1.5 degrees from the pre-industrial level temperature. Which was deemed the tipping point for global surface temperature. But did they succeed? Obviously not. Global average temperature during 2024, which was the hottest year so far, was 1.6 degrees above the pre-industrial level. That basically was recognized as a tipping point for global surface, which is a point beyond which severe degradations and catastrophes is inevitable for for Earth. But you might ask, okay, a rise of 1.5 or 1.6 degrees might not sound too much, really. We sometimes appreciate a little bit warmer weather in our location, but why this is such a big deal? Because, when it comes to climate change, even those few temperature rises can increase the severity and frequency of extreme weather events. Ocean acidification, floods, biodiversity loss, deforestation, heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and even climate change migration. That's a new phenomenon that we're dealing with. So all of them are kind of caused by global warming and climate change. Um, just last month, we managed to hit another tipping point, which was related to ocean acidification, which caused dieback of coral reefs. Why that is important? Because coral reefs, they are a home of almost a quarter of all marine species, and dying back them will basically lead to losing many species and endangering millions of lives of millions of people as well. Um, Even though we are in a very emergency at this time, very few countries are acting like that, and most people just slide walking. Um, I thought about, what could be the potential reasons behind that, and obviously it's a very complex um, issue, and there are many reasons behind that. But just to highlight a couple of them, which can basically sort of relates to emerging challenges on the new world. I'm going to highlight a couple of those in the next few slides. The first one is probably the misinformation and disinformation. In the era where we are bombarded every day with tons of different informations, it's really hard to distinguish between true and false, distinguish between facts and fictions. The global forum, the global economic forum publish a risk analysis every year ahead of those forum. And in their 2025 report, they ranked misinformation and disinformation as the biggest short-term risk for the globe. These figures here show the big global risk in 2-year and 10-year time frame, according to the experts from all around the world. And that's a real problem, in our everyday lives. We wider populations, sometimes even ourselves, tend to believe, social media influencers who comment on everything from body lotions to nail polish to microeconomics and foreign exchange policies, rather than specialist experts and scientists around the world. So this is a real problem, and if you look at closely to the figures it's interesting that in long-term risks, all 4 top risks are related to climate change. So extreme weather events, biodiversity loss, critical change in the earth systems, and nature resources shortages, it all deemed to be the most uh, uh, basically dangerous risk for the globe in the next 10 years. Move on to the next potential reason. It's the fact that most of us who live in a relative bubble of climate privilege think that climate change is something happening out there. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to hit in us. But when you zoom in, crisis is already happening here. Um, Even in some of the most safest countries in the UK. And for this claim, some of the insurance companies can verify this claim. Just last year, Worcestershire was the first town in England in the UK that that the insurance companies decided not to insure the public buildings and large buildings in that town because they think that the town will be abandoned in the next few years because of the devastating floods that has happened frequently in the last few years in that town. And the experts predicting the same sort of trend for larger cities like London, Manchester, and Northeast England as well. So this is already happening, and this is already affecting our lives. And the next one could be kind of like a feeling of inadequacy or some sort of isolation, which leads us to become more apathetic or powerless against what's being dictated to us. I don't know if you familiar with this project, but it was it's an ongoing project, 89% project, which is a global journalistic and scientific effort to explore the pivotal but the little known facts about climate change. And what they found is that the overwhelmingly majority of the world's population, in fact, around 89% of the world's population, believe climate change is a real thing, and they want their government to take stronger actions. But the fact is not, because of the fact that this is not reflected in the policies, in the news coverage, in everything that they see around them, they have a feeling that they are a minority and the rest of people don't think like them. So sometimes it's just enough to raise your hands and speak up, and you'll see that many people will be in your side, and together we can collectively be more impactful. So having this context set, we can go and talk a little bit about now what's the role of SMEs and what businesses can contribute to this. SMEs seen as a backbone of the economy. Just in the UK today, we have 5 million, more than 5 million businesses in the UK, which basically makes 99% of the whole businesses in the UK. On individual scale, they are probably not carbon intensive as the larger organization, multinational organizations, but collectively, they're responsible for an estimated of 43 to 55% of UK's whole business GHG emissions. And that's from the other side, 60% of these SMEs and businesses are aware of net zero, and they want to implement some decarbonization strategy. Good news is 94%, based on the latest surveys, 94% of those businesses have already taken the first at least one action to reduce their emissions, and those actions are typically the most easiest, straightforward measures that we probably all know about them. These are the measures that we are sure that they will save energy, they will save cost, and they will reduce the emissions of the businesses. Some of them include these, some of them are listed here, such as these physical measures like LED lighting, smart controls, loft and cavity wall insulation. These are, the easy wins, the low hanging fruits that everyone can do, ensuring that they will see the very short return of investment and good impact in their efficiency. And solar, obviously, although it's not as cheap as the other ones, but its benefits are certain and proved over time. And based on another survey, these are the results of a UK-wide survey consisting of more than 1,000 interviews, and this shows basically the actions that reported as taken by businesses. Again, easiest straightforward actions such as introducing digital meetings and some sort of like digital basically facilities to enable more meetings and probably working from home for some of the employees, focusing on waste, recycling, upcycling, using smart meters, and using grid and renewable tariffs from their suppliers, plus purchasing some IT equipment and more energy efficient office equipment. So if you already have done some of these measures and if you have implemented some of them in your business, you're ahead of game. That's great, but unfortunately not enough because, with all these low-hanging fruits that we mentioned, you can achieve possibly 10%, 20% of emission reduction, not more really, because energy use, of course, forms part of your carbon emissions reporting, which mainly goes under scope 1 and 2. But to be able to decarbonize further, you need to broaden your activities and your efforts. The key point is, it's not just about spending more. It's about changing the way that you prioritize measures and just some smart prioritization. Everything starts with measurement. You can't manage without measurement, can't you? Because basically the first step is to measure, to find the hotspots, inefficiencies within your operation, within your building, and that can only done by measurement. Why measurement is helpful and what to measure? Measurement and monitoring can basically benefit in multiple ways. The first one is verifying to make sure that your existing systems are actually doing what you think they are doing, as are set temperatures right, are heating systems scheduled well, are machines turning off overnight, and many tick boxes that you have to check. It will help you to find hotspots, find where the energy is actually going. It's for example very common that occupants or staff of a business think that most of the energy goes to some of the heavy equipment or most energy intensive equipment, such as plasma cutter, welder, that sort of equipment. But because they are only working just a few minutes probably per day, they are not the biggest energy consumer in that company, and sometimes we'll find that just a simple lighting upgrade or lighting timing can save more than upgrading those energy intensive equipment. The measurements also can help you to find patterns and waste within your building and operations, to find energy consumption patterns and match them with benchmarks, match them with nominal data of the equipment that you use in the building. And luckily, there are lots of tools to measure almost everything that, anything that you can think about in your company can be measured, and there are some tools to measure those basically elements of the operation. This picture shows some of those measures that we have at Discerna. Just to highlight a couple of the most important ones. Compressed air is usually one of the most energy intensive areas within operation of manufacturing or generally in buildings. That's you can log the performance of the energy efficiency. That you can meter the flow of the compressed air, and using photographic leak detectors you can find the leakage in the system. different energy logging, three-phase, single-phase energy logging, where you can find the patterns of the energy consumption of the building, different equipment to test the building fabric and monitor the performance of building envelope, such as thermal cameras, U-value measurements, and etc. Air tightness testing is one of them as well. Heating and waste heat analysis, ventilation performance, different tools and equipment to monitor that. Internal 3D photographic scanning, which can set the baseline for your future uh, renovations and upgrades in the building, and infrared and visible spectrum drone photography, which can show you the inefficiencies in the building roofs and kind of do the drone survey for you. So this is relatively extreme. Obviously, you're not going to use all, you don't need really all of these equipment to do the measurements in your business, but there are some basic measurement tools and measures that you can use and definitely will be helpful for all of the businesses. To give you one example, and that's using half an hourly data. Most of us currently have the smart meters in our buildings, and if not, we can easily request one of them from our energy supplier. Once you have the smart meter, then you can download the half-hourly electricity consumption over the 12 month from your online portal. And then once you have that, using just the simple conditional formatting in Excel spreadsheet, you can turn it to this sort of like a colorful pattern that shows the consumption of the business. This example, I think, is for a steelworking company that we surveyed a couple of years ago, and that shows the things that you need to look at it. This pattern is to regular usage pattern, daytime shifts, breaks, shutdowns. You can also find the base load by which you can adjust your electricity tariff and contract with your supplier, and also the overnight hour usage, and also identify some pieces of equipment which are not running as they should be. Some of the spots that you can, for example, monitor here is that if you see this green strip in the middle of the picture is related to Christmas holiday, but if you compare it with a nighttime energy consumption in summertime, which is the second spot here, you can see some sort of unusual energy consumption, and you can tell that is something happening overnight during the summertime that uses energy, which is probably unnecessary, because when you compare it again with the winter time, you can see the energy consumption base load during the day, during the night time is higher than the winter time, which doesn't make sense. And to identify what causes that problem, you need to investigate more. You need to see if any compressed air or heavy machinery is working during the nighttime, or if it's a gas boiler running all summer, or if it's a heating HVAC system is running, or it's not basically it's not controlled in an efficient way, so it's running during the nighttime as well. So all these useful information you can get from this simple practice. The next slide. What we can do with all these data, the main the simple answer to that question is that you can prioritize problems and their associated solutions. These data help you understand which solutions suit you based on the building type, based on your budget and the business activity. And this approach similarly can be applied to any other situation, whether it's lighting, it's heating, your building fabric, industrial equipment, or etc. Um, right, so you've got your measurement done, you've got the required data, and then what you can do with that and what solutions are out there which can help you. There are these are just some of the most common technological solutions, which are most straightforward, and the one in the top, which are in bold font, they are probably the most easiest, straightforward ones. But every place is obviously unique, and there are always, unique solutions that wouldn't fit in the list like this. But just to name a few of these important technological solutions, we can start with building fabric and heating solutions, which is a foundation that gives you the most value for money in most cases. You've got renewable solutions by which you can generate your own energy and be safe of volatile energy market, and even make some extra earning. You've got controls, which are the brain of your system, and usually, very reasonable in terms of price, helps you split the investment, and usually the practice is do the controls first and then the equipment to kind of, split the investment from upfront. And then you've got the industrial equipment, which are the more bespoke solutions if you are a manufacturing or industrial business. So solutions are out there, really. Technologies are mature enough. They are not experimental anymore. All of these technologies have proved their efficiency and effectiveness. You just need to pick them based on your demand and based on the nature of your business. And one of the challenges probably would be the upfront cost, but luckily there are some extra funding also available, some grants available. Here in the UK, for example, you've got the boiler upgrade scheme, which supports you to install heat pumps in the buildings, both for commercial and residential clients, and then that will, if I'm not mistaken, that will cover 7,000, around 7,000 or 7,000 half for the cost of the heat pump installation. You've got workplace charging schemes where by which you can get some EV charger for your businesses, and there are many local authority schemes, supportive schemes in different areas by which you can improve the energy efficiency and environmental footprint of your business. So the bottom line is we just need to change our mindset and see the opportunities really attached to it. Obviously, there are some obstacles ahead. We touched on the upfront cost obstacle. There are some other sort of barriers as well, such as tenancy constraints, lack of clarity sometimes, lack of support, but also it's very important to see the opportunity through them are much clearly today. Opportunities like, these basically green initiatives and energy efficiency upgrades, they makes absolute financial sense these days. They benefit you in terms of brand reputation. They will cause customer and employee satisfaction. Using them, you can keeping up with competitive trends in the market, and also you can keeping up with regulatory and tax reductions. So these were just some of the reasons that your business can take some of these actions, and it's really worthy to take some extra steps towards net zero. The other very important and most overlooked part of the decarbonization is people and your employees. You can have the most efficient heat pump in the smartest building with the smartest management system in a in a very good insulated probably building. But if someone opens the window, or if leaves the equipment running overnight because it's easier, or just adjust the heating temperature in a not efficient way, then you're already losing the battle. So you have to engage and encourage and empower your employees to behave more sustainably along the journey, and to bring them on board as well. Um, and interestingly, the recent surveys shows that actually most of the employees want to be a part of that journey. They actually want to help. And one of the recent surveys showed that 75% of employees want to work for a company that cares about this stuff. So why behavior of the employees matter, where that comes to play? Social and behavior change is now recognized as central to climate solutions, along with other technology and policy interventions. There are many different reports, research studies that shows this. To name a few, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, uh, published a report a couple of years ago in which they recognized behavior change as a potential to basically deliver 40 to 70% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050 in national level. In organizational level, again, there are different publications, reports, and research showing somewhere between 5 to 50% potential for um, reducing energy consumption and carbon emissions in businesses. So organizations now are increasingly recognizing that behavior change is one of the quickest and lowest cost approaches to delivering energy efficiency and environmental improvement. The main area with big impact and somehow, as I mentioned, overlooked so far. There are different barriers according to behavior science. There are different barriers for adopting sustainable behaviors. Just quickly to overview some of them, is that sustainable behaviors sometimes are it needs more time and effort than regular choices. And that's why, when you're busy at work, convenience is the key and you go with the easiest options normally. The second one is, compared to home, there's a lack of financial incentive, control, and personal responsibility for adopting those sustainable behaviors in workplace. The other item could be lack of knowledge. Some staff don't know what is sustainable, what can be considered as sustainable action. The next one is, people think their small actions won't make real difference, real change when they look at the bigger problem. And finally, some of the habits, noises, and mental shortcut that all people have. So if you manage to address any of these in your company, the closer you will be to to a workplace where employees behave more responsibly and more environmentally conscious. That's why we've developed a toolkit for driving positive behavior change within a workplace. The main objective of this toolkit is to empower employees to become more active participants in the company's sustainability journey. It basically involves different practical, engaging, fun, and evidence-based tools where businesses can implement within their business, and to bring their employees on board. The main aim of this, the main objective of this, is to turn sustainability goals from something abstract and distant to something actionable, something embedded in workplace culture that people can routinely do. And just to maximize the impact of other technological solutions that you already implemented in the workplace. I'm gonna cover this very quickly. Yeah, we call this toolkit Sustainable Workplace Wins, and this guy Brew is our behavior change body, which pops up throughout the toolkit just to give you some handy tips. This is basically a workplace, a behavior change toolkit that um, um, includes, different print-ready material, different digital tools, games, a booklet, evaluation guidance. All of these are included in a package which help businesses in this journey. I'm gonna skip that one and go to the next slide, which is it's important to mention that so far we've been focused on energy saving. Every single kilowatt hour you save gives you a triple win. Basically, you increase your energy efficiency, you reduce your carbon footprint, and you save money. Perfect, no one loses. But um, here's the important bit: energy efficiency alone won't get you to net zero. It's essential, it's the foundation, but it's not the whole journey. And here is where the challenge starts. So, as I mentioned, all of these, energy efficiency, basically, which can reduce your energy consumption, that goes under scope 1 and 2 emission categories. For you who are not familiar with the scope 1 and 2, so basically scope 1 emissions is related to all your direct fossil fuel combustion in the company, such as your, gas for space heating, for cooking, and etc. And the scope 2 is related to your purchased electricity, steam, or heat. But that the bigger picture is less straightforward. So this figure possibly can show the challenge of getting to net zero for most businesses. So as you can see, the scope 3 emissions of in most cases are the largest component of all emissions for a company. And so far we only touched on the scope 1 and 2. So scope 3 emissions are all indirect emissions occurring throughout the company's value chain. And they are basically 15 main categories. And to fully address some of these category emissions, there are still lots of challenges and uncertainties ahead. So I'm going to just highlight some of these big emission sources and some challenges and solutions associated with them. So the first one, and possibly the most complex one for most of the businesses, is supply chain and procurement, which involves all the purchased goods and services, materials procured for the operational needs, or capital goods like machinery, equipment, anything. So and it's the indirect emissions associated with the manufacturing, transportation of all these goods and services. So all of them basically goes on the emissions related to supply chain and procurement. And same as downstream emissions from transporting sold products to customers, emissions from how the product is used by the customers, and emissions from disposing or recycling the product, your product, after use. Just quickly review some of the measures. So you've got, you need to measure and prioritize. You need to assess your value chain. You need to use these, use these data to prioritize action on significant items, and, kind of prioritize those with heavy material or hazardous components first. You need to work closely with suppliers, encourage them to measure and report emissions, set reduction targets, and adopt sustainable practices. The other one is implement sustainable procurement policies. So obviously you need to favor low carbon products and services. Life cycle assessment can be really helpful here. just to improve the durability and recyclability of your supply, extend the lifespans and minimize waste, and generally, contribute to the circular economy. And also, making some collaboration partnerships is also very helpful. So working with industry associations, government initiatives to exchange best practices, to access resources, to drive collective action. And finally, deploy robust data management systems to measure, to analyze, and to report emissions aligned with different, reporting standards. The next area is transportation and fleet emissions, which can make up on up to 20 to 40% of emissions for your services and businesses. Excuse me, for service-based businesses. Um, it's very important to tackle this as soon as we can, really, because first of all, because of the the rising costs of the fuels, and also the secondly because of the regulations such as 2030 petrol and diesel ban for the new car. So it's really important to tackle this, and these are some of the solutions that you can look at it. The first one is clear and obvious. So you need to gradually change to low and zero emission vehicles such as EVs, and also introducing charging points for your businesses. You can be more efficient in your deliveries and fleet and reduce your transportation distances by optimizing routes. You can do bulk deliveries. You can use, planning ahead to combine multiple meetings, visits, deliveries to reduce the number of trips. That is very important. Um, and you need also, constantly measure and monitor your mileage and your emissions related to transportation and fleet, and also, collaborate with other partners, industry associations to streamline sustainable transportation practices. And also, the last one possibly could be encourage more sustainable commuting for employees, incentivize them to choose more sustainable travel options, such as public transportation, active transportation, enabling video conferencing for and virtual meetings, obviously, and also some incentivizing schemes such as car sharing, cycling, that sort of schemes that businesses can implement within their workplace to encourage employees to take more sustainable forms of transportation. And finally, I'm going to touch on waste, which involves, managing all waste generated during the operational activities and end-of-life treatment of your products. So just some of the strategies could be, the first one is to adhere to waste hierarchy. That means prioritizing the prevention of waste and reducing waste first by improving, the product design, enhancing resource efficiency, and reducing packaging. And also you can engage in different food waste reduction programs to access targeted resources and guidance for minimizing food waste in operations. Also, you can enhance recycling and recovering in your value chain, which means basically you need to use more recycled material in your. You need to buy less, buy only what is necessary, and also prioritizing, the sourcing of the products with more recyclability, circularity potential, obviously. And the last one possibly could be enhancing your services by different, business innovations. For example, introducing take-back programs, and collaborating with customers to facilitate the return and reuse or recycling the sold products. And also there are, lots of different online marketplace, different apps by which you can collaborate to kind of facilitate the redistribution of your products and the byproducts or the components of your products. So uh, that was the main areas of scope 3 emissions that I wanted to cover. But there is, all of them have one common element, and that's you need to find the hotspot first. And that's basically only can be done through carbon accounting. So carbon accounting is very important for the business. As I mentioned in one of the initial slides, measurement, you can't manage or you can't manage energy if you don't measure it. And there are lots of carbon accounting softwares and online tools available now in the market that can help you to do this. Bring About is one of them that you know help you to track your scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions and identify the biggest sources within your business. And just to show you where to focus, where to start with, and what measures you can take to progress over time. And it also can generate carbon reduction plans compliant with government requirements and also SECR reports for businesses. And also it has the data sync capabilities to connect directly with your accounting software and just to upload the information with CSV files. And also it's customizable based on the company demands on emission categories, which is relevant to your company. So I'm also conscious of time. So yeah, that was my last slide. So I'm happy to take some questions if you have. And yeah, thanks for listening so far. If you have any questions, I can take questions. You can ask in the chat box of the call, or you can just unmute yourself. I was planning to finish this in 50 minutes, and I've been usually very rarely on time, but I finished in exactly in 50 minutes. That was an achievement for me, I think. Okay, if there is no question, I think we can end the webinar. Again, thank you very much. You can find the recording of the webinar in our website, along with other previous webinars, which will be available on demand for everyone. And yeah, stay tuned for our next webinars as well. Thank you very much.